Hi, everybody. It's high noon on Friday, September. What is it, Tom?
It is September 11th, 9/11.
Wow. Special day, 20 years since history was made. So one of the reasons this show exists is to give fans and the regular casual person who checks out this show a chance to get away from it all. And there are many topics outside of the grueling tensions of the world, and whether it's politics or jobs or whatever, Tom, we're just here as a alternative. Two guys chatting about spaghetti westerns. You're always free to join in the comments section. Let's get the show on the road. We've got a special guest today, and he'll be joining us in about 45 seconds, Tom.
Good.
Tom, when the bell tones 3 times, you or our special guest. Yes, Tom.
You're fine. Just went out for a second.
Anyway, our special guest needs no introduction here on Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns. We welcome the one and only Courtney Joyner. Hi, Courtney.
Hey, and yes, I do need an introduction, please.
Yes.
He's the author of many books, many films, different genres. They even had a board game, right, Courtney?
Yes, I sure did. Yep.
So, I mean, you've done it all in the genre, going way back to Roger Corman and those early years, right, at Concord, Courtney, or even before that?
Well, I'm very limited at Concord. Full Moon was my home.
Oh,
for
that's
a
right.
long
Okay,
time.
sorry
Yeah.
about that.
That's quite all right.
So you were Albert Band, the band Charles Band, the band outfit.
Band on the Run, you bet.
Right. I think because you use a lot of the old Corman actors, I think that's why I think, you know, anybody who was available at that time who I guess had a career, whether it's a Cam Mitchell or a Vincent Price, they would be a part of one of your productions or films. We'll talk about that. I'm referring to The Offspring, of course.
Oh, yes.
So, but we're here today to talk about what you said that hasn't been covered, and that is, I guess, journeyman directors who did both spaghetti westerns and horror or giallo and stuff like that. So we're going to run the gamut. You have selected bunch of movies and posters that I hope the fans will enjoy. By the way, just in case you forgot, my name is Jay Jennings, Spaghetti Westerns collector, autograph hounder, just all around annoyance to anyone who knows me. This man right here needs no introduction, but that is Tom Betts, Spaghetti Westerns historian. Hi, Tom.
How you doing, Jay?
Tom flew out here from Almeria to be here, and we're always glad that Tom can join us. Of course, Tom of the always Westerns all'Italiana blog, magazine, and everything else under the sun that is Spaghetti Westerns, except for one other, I guess, big player, which we give a shout out at the end of the show. You're all watching this on Facebook.com, Spaghetti Westerns Podcast. So let's get right to the show. Courtney, you said that you wanted to talk about things that were like where directors covered different aspects of films in their career. They all went to Europe or Italy at some point to make either a horror or giallo. Andre de Toth, right, would make a Western, then he'd turn around and make House of Wax, something like that. So I guess we can start with the first film that I think you wanted us to talk about. And I guess this is a Bullet for the General, which shows a director who goes from one genre to the next.
Well, this is when we started talking, thank you so much for the invitation to be on the show. But
Right.
this also, goes sometimes, Tom, to conversations you and I have had sitting on the bench outside the Autry, that so many of the filmmakers that have become, if you will, all iconic because of their work in one Italian genre or another, whether it's spaghetti westerns or Eurocrime or giallo or what have you, actually their careers spread out and touched every single genre.
Correct.
And these were, if you will, they were, a lot of this work was assignment work, and they took on these movies, and some did extraordinarily well with them. And I mentioned A Bullet for the General just because, first of all, I think the movie is absolutely tremendous and has not gotten anywhere near the attention that it deserves as kind of this unsung epic. At least I feel that it is.
And you'd think it would because of the fact that Gian Maria Volante was coming off the Leone films and springing into this, it would have carried a large audience over to it.
And our great friend and Klaus Kinski, and and it has so much scope, and it just even from just a cinematic eye, it's like, wow, where in the world? It's like this film landed from outer space, and most people don't even know it exists.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's one of my favorite of the revolutionary movies with Companeros. And would you say Run Man Run is a little bit revolutionary, Court?
Yes, and also too, Jay, I think what I like about it also is that it is a film, since so many of these movies were co-financed by German banks, which is the presence of Klaus Kinski and William Berger and people like that in the cast, because that was usually a demand. But here, the German cast members are playing Germans and their own role in the revolution at the time.
Right.
So let me interrupt real quick.
Additionally authentic.
Court, just because I've got we look at I have a technical thing here. They're saying your mic. Is there any way to turn your mic down a little bit?
I don't know. I can.
Or the volume may be on the Mac or something, or
yeah, I can try.
Sometimes our listeners correct our audio, and I'm always helpful for it.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Wasim Mogul, can we get a thumbs up from you, since he's our audio tech guy? So, anyway, no, it's a great film. And of course, we're talking about the films of Damiano Damiani, who went from Bullet to the General to
Amityville 2.
Right.
Yeah, really, what a switch.
That's kind of weird. Like, why would he have done that? Well, that's who he also made porn too. So I mean, didn't he produce what was it? Devil and Miss Jones, or one of those fun movies? But hold on, I think we have a shot of it.
There
we go.
Yeah, it's a fun picture. Obviously low grade B, but James Olsen's in it too, and the demon voice is a kind of a rip-off of Little Exorcist, "Who Are You" from Nanny and the Professor, Juliet Mills. So, and then of course there's incest and all that other crazy stuff. So it's not something that would make a top 50 or 100 list, but I think this is where it's work, Courtney. After you take a film.
But also, Jay, look at the first credit. This was for Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh, that's right.
So, when De Laurentiis came in and he bought up, the franchise titles, it's interesting that he went to Italian filmmakers with whom he had this history going way back to the 60s, because I believe Damiano Damiani, didn't he write The Witch with Richard Johnson?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that is a great black and white horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so his, if you will, footsteps in the genre, like so many of these guys, and as we'll get to them, started way back when. And when Westerns, because of Leone, because of Sergio Corbucci, exploded, everybody followed suit. That's what was being made. Those were the jobs that were being offered.
Yeah, the poster is, I mean, the Amityville legend is always fun. I just don't think it's been done right. The first one was the closest. And then after that, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think part 6 takes place in a chicken cage or something. It got outrageous. I think there's part 7, Amityville 7 in outer space, kind of like Hellraiser.
It's like Tremors. It just keeps going and going.
Right, but as long as there's a cash, people willing to put money into the name recognition.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, as a director, Court, that at the American Film Market or at Cannes. Or Cannes, you have these filmmakers trying to, like with either Band and the other ones, trying to make it by selling posters and attaching big name stars or B names. Film hasn't been made yet. There might not be a script, but these were the days when you can go to a film market, pitch you're standing next to Elliot Gould. He goes, "Oh, I'm all in," and you go, "Let's make this for $1 million or $2 million." You know all that, Court.
Absolutely. Only most of the time it was, standing next to Frank Zagarino and Richard Lynch and making it for a good deal less than $1 million too.
Oh, that's awesome. Because you have worked with so many actors. We said Cam Mitchell and Vincent Price and Richard Lynch. What do you think me and Tom have had this debate. Did he do that to his face on purpose to get roles, or is that just a myth? Was that a birth defect?
No, that was, and Richard had talked about it. In fact, he did an anti-LSD short and some advertising against drugs, because that was to be part, as the story goes, an anti-Vietnam protest where he immolated himself. And it went too far, and he set himself on fire much more so than he thought he was going to.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
he always claimed later that in fact he had taken LSD and he was tripping, and that's what gave him the idea and what he did to himself.
So Michael Jackson moment.
Michael Jackson moment, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
With the LSD included.
Right.
But he did a short film about that. At the time, to warn people off of Timothy Leary's lysergic acid.
Right. Okay. Let's jump right next to another film in the Damiani Ovor, and that's The Witch. Court.
And there it is with Richard Johnson, who I got to know a little bit. He was a great guy, and of course known now for playing the professor in Robert Wise's The Haunting. But he did a lot of international productions, including Zombie for Lucio Fulci, who also, of course, Massacre Time and Silver Saddle, and made his westerns as well.
Yep.
So stars like Johnson, who was a European name, and they would come and they would, appear in these Italian, sometimes British, sometimes German, sometimes Swiss co-productions, pick up their cash. They were having a ball, make these movies, and then they would go home and wait till the phone to ring again.
Right. This was what caught my eye as a Gian Maria Volonté film.
Yep.
Anything that he's in, I watch. I'm a huge fan and collector of his stuff. So it's a minor Italian. What would you say? Where would it stand?
Certainly, it. I think it's taking a major cue from a lot of other Italian black and white horror films from the period, particularly whether you want to go to something like Kaltiki, The Immortal Monster, or later Black Sunday. They all kind of melded into this wonderful, stark black and white Euro horror world. And The Witch is definitely one of those films.
Okay. Well, there's the Damiani section. You can see the plethora of films that he did. And then moving on to another legendary director and how he bounced around doing different, whether he wrote something or produced something, produced another, directed another, is the great Dario Argento. And did he co-wrote or completely write Once Upon a Time, Court?
He co-wrote it.
Wow.
And actually, Tom, if I'm not mistaken, I think Argento shares the story credit, correct?
Right. Yep.
And but this was, of course, his father was a film producer, was he not, and financier?
That's correct. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes. And when he had actually pitched the idea, I guess Sergio Leone really wasn't interested in making another Western out of after The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Right.
And
right.
Argento discussed Westerns with him, and and of course he was also a film critic.
That's right. Yeah, he started out as a film critic. Yep.
And they wanted to. He said, "Oh my gosh!" And they kind of got Leone excited himself about the idea of doing another Western because he was frustrated that the worldwide success of the Three Eastwoods was bringing him attention and money, but only for more Westerns.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me just interrupt we have a quick announcement. No, actually, just so we can give a rough estimate of who we're talking about here. I've got 3 monitors set up here. Oh, by the way, John Saxon says hi. And
that looks like Joe Kidd.
Let me see if I can bring him a little closer. There he is. Okay. That's from the Appaloosas, as you know.
Oh, it is from the Appaloosa. Okay. Yeah. Do not go to Cocos Land.
Right. And he's great in it, of course. We're going to be talking about Argento, Don Taylor, Lucio Fulci, of course, Albert Band, Sergio Corbucci, one-eyed Andre de Toth, who was legally blind in one eye, and Jacques Tournier. And
Mario Bava.
Oh, see, Tom wanted to add Bava to it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So, of course, we had Mario Bava. We'd go remiss without that. Okay, so the next, let's see what we got. What's the next film that we have?
Cemetery Without Crosses.
Let's take a quick look-see. Yes, it is. Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Now, this was also, I think, a man and a colt, or a colt and a rope. And I like the artwork. I have the other one that's all in red.
This is a tremendously good movie, I think. Yep. Tom, how do you feel about it?
It's one of my favorites. And I mean, there's a lot of gothic. That ghost town, I mean, it just yells out at you, horror movie, from there, because none of the buildings, they're all the same. They're dark, they're black, and they're sort of leaning towards the center of town. So whenever anybody enters town, it just points to them. It's just fantastic. And at first, the first time I saw it, it was a little strange because there's bits and pieces in this, like at the dinner party where the Jack in the Box pops out. It's like, what the heck is that all about? But it's fantastic. And then the ending, of course, we never tell the endings because that's a giveaway. So you have to watch the whole thing through to see the surprise ending.
Right.
Well, I think with after Once Upon a Time in the West, and that period for Argento, again, he was getting writing assignments, and the assignments he was getting were Westerns, and whether he was helping in the initiation or not, I don't think really mattered, because you have things like Today We Kill, For Tomorrow We Die, is certainly one, and as Jay mentioned, one of my all-time absolute favorites that Argento wrote is Five Man Army. And that Don Taylor directed with Peter Graves. I just think it's a wonderful movie. And as you said, with Cemetery Without Crosses, if you will, you're seeing the horror on the fringes. It's kind of this shadow that's cast over the film. But here, this is such it's a caper movie. It's like almost just like Argento's Professionals without the darkness, which is kind of fun since he wrote it.
Right.
But it's and of course it has the revolution as the background and all of that. But it just has such a different feel, and it's a lighter feel, and also a more opulent feel because it was co-financed by MGM, and they put money into this thing, and you can see it.
Yeah, it's
No,
nonstop. It's
don't
nonstop
forget.
action too. We talked last week about Kill Them All, Come Back Alone with Chuck Connors being nonstop from the beginning credits. There's action, and this is the same way. I mean, once they get the army together, I mean, it's just bing, 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 bing.
And,
Yeah, to me, it's like also has Mission Impossible. You have Peter Graves,
Mm-hmm.
setting it up. He has a gun instead of a micro cassette recorder, which is that's why I really like the film. It's like, whoa, it's Phelps is in a spaghetti western. As we said as a kid, we've talked about this film, Court. There are a lot of films we've talked about. Today we kill, tomorrow we die. Just ad infinitum. So a couple of them I'll move past, but we know we're fans of. You can imagine when we had Brett here.
Yeah, we talked about that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So because we have a ton of stuff that we haven't talked about. Argento then doing the Deep Red, Suspiria, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Inferno, just one Italian classic horror film after another.
And becoming a legend. It was just and of course, what's fun is I think because of and Deep Red, I just absolutely blows me away every time I see it. But because of the status of these films, and now Suspiria has been remade, and all these other things, people are now going back and they're going, "Wow, what is Five Man Army? What is Today We Kill, for Tomorrow We Die?" I mean, most people are aware it had something to do with Once Upon a Time in the West, but to know that he had this entire catalog of westerns behind him is kind of new news to some folks.
Mm-hmm. That's the way Fulci was too, I think, and Bava. They made their name in horror films and films like that, and then all of a sudden people discovered that they made other types of films.
That's right.
So they go back and look at those to see what the influence was. Yep.
Yeah, video, cassette, laser disc, all responsible, I think.
Yep.
Stuff like the Criterion Collection, even some of those lower end companies that put out, even the Japanese laser discs. You'd be able to get all of these on one laser with liner notes.
You're exactly right. I mean, before DVD, if you were into Argento, you might be able to find 2 or 3 of his movies over here, but that would be it. You'd read about him in these books about all the other stuff he did, but you couldn't get your hands on him. And with DVD, you can get almost anything anybody made.
Well, that's something, Jay, and you and I have talked about, and Tom, you and I have spoken about, is there was this period, especially if you were an enthusiast for this, and Tom, it must have driven you crazy. Where did you go? You go to Video Search of Miami. Back when we could try and get something on some sort of a
for
pirate
$100.
$100. The quality was usually horrible.
Yep.
And but because so many of these films that we loved, whether they the westerns or the giallos or the Eurocrime, whatever it was, the distributors, especially the ones in the United States, usually didn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Every once in a while, something was distributed by Columbia or whatever it was, but most of the time, it's like, who put this out?
Untouchable.
And then,
untouchable.
Yeah.
Unless you found a guy that could record something off of late night TV in Minneapolis, and trade with you. And then again, Court, you got a 5th generation film and probably cut because of commercials in it. So you couldn't see the whole thing anyways. So that was it.
And look how many, because of this indistinct distribution thing, look how many Euro Westerns fell into the public domain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, that's good for us now because I can again collect every non-market film that I get from some guy in Italy or Spain or 4th generation with Greek titles, but it's the only one.
Yep.
So I think Tom and some other guy are on my VHS list, Courtney. So if you want to join. Anyway, real quick shout out to Inferno, great soundtrack by Keith Emerson.
Yes.
Who I was a friend of mine. I met him at one of the autograph shows, Tom. Near its end and conclusion, there's Keith Emerson of ELP. I'm like, whoa. So I spent the whole day with him. We had lunch. I met his girlfriend. And, and I told him, would you like to score a spaghetti Western? You know, and I said, well, if you hang around for a couple more years, but unfortunately he passed away. But love this, anything Keith Emerson played on, very Goblin style, it's like Goblin, but on a piano.
Right,
And
right.
it's incredible. Anyway, I think let's move on to, so Dario Argento is another, I guess, filmmaker who dabbled in the spaghetti Western, obviously wrote some, was very good at it, and was also good at his main genre, which was horror. And then we go, I guess, we just showed Five Man Army. We can then, from that, Don Taylor went to Omen 2, kind of a little switcheroo. Court?
Well, wait, hang on just a second. I want to ask Court. Five Man Army. How much did Don Taylor actually do on Five Man Army? There's that big question mark that he was there for a day or two and got the boot or left or whatever. So,
okay,
fill us in what you know.
I'm going to make the question mark even bigger.
Well, thanks a lot. Let's go on to the next movie.
I have absolutely no idea because, you know, there's always been that that inquiry, I should say. Now, was Taylor given the boot, or was Taylor the one who was brought in?
Right. Yeah, that's
MGM?
true. That's true. Yeah, to save it. Yeah.
And I've never been able to find out. I always felt that he probably was brought in only because you did have Graves, who had a lot of clout because of television. You had James Daly, and you had significant American actors in the film. And they probably said, you know, we would be more comfortable. And MGM probably was also. And Taylor now, by this point, done a lot of television directing. Of course, he was an actor first.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because Graves and Daly are basically TV actors.
Absolutely.
I mean, they hadn't made a European film, so they'd feel much more comfortable with an American director helping them because we've talked before about the different languages being spoken and whatever. It'd be very difficult for your first movie to have some director speaking Italian that you don't understand either, trying to work with. So that makes a lot of sense.
And also, Taylor had made movies in Europe as an actor.
Right.
So he kind of knew the groundwork already.
How they were made. Yep.
Absolutely. But his directing career, here is this very, I think, terrific Western that he does. And then when he comes back to the States, it is, you know, of course, Escape from the Planet of the Apes and Omen 2, and a movie I really like quite a bit, The Final Countdown with Kirk Douglas.
Classic.
And
of course, and his other great horror connection, his beautiful, beautiful wife, because he was married to Hazel Court.
Right.
Right. So we're looking at some of the posters from Don Taylor's career. Final Countdown, good film. Where the hell are we?
That's it.
So, anyway,
it's a nightmare.
Yes.
Right, exactly. I don't want to wake up, Bert. So yeah, Don Taylor, Hazel Court, of course. When I was younger, I used to think, did Don Taylor direct one of the AIP films, Court?
No, he never did. But I believe he and Hazel met on an Alfred Hitchcock Presents that he was directing.
Oh, okay. Let's get the poster for The Final Countdown.
Oh, it's such a and way before its time, I think.
Yeah, it didn't do well, and I thought it had it was very Twilight Zone-y, very outer
exactly,
limits-y.
Twilight Zone. Yep.
Time travel is always fun, and then you throw in the Bermuda Triangle, perhaps, or a fourth dimension, or aliens. A thinking man's movie. You really wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I think it's dismissed as kind of a, you know, like a B film, you know, near the end of Kurt's career. But you think that away. Philadelphia Experiment. With Michael
that
Paré.
is the B version of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But I'd still say they're both pretty good in that category. Okay, so let's move on to, I think, another master of horror who also did dabbled in spaghetti westerns, was Lucio Fulci. And Massacre Time, of course, is a classic, for the Apocalypse. And then his slew of gory horror films that he made at a relatively old age. I mean, not super old, but for an elderly, like Franco, well into his late 60s, early 70s, still, you know, putting out, you know, gallons of gore and stuff, whether it's zombies or people eating the flesh and stuff like that.
The gates of hell, baby.
Gates of hell, where the girl
Yeah.
pukes out her guts right in front of the gates of hell.
That's
My
it.
date walked out in
I
2
think
minutes
because
after.
as he got older, he got more famous and opened up the doors that, he had a name. If you say, okay, let's get Lucio Fulci involved in this, or Lucio Fulci came to Courtney and said, I've got this project, but you say, you're an old man, get away. No, you're a master of horror. Let's talk.
No, that's absolutely true. And so the films the westerns that he made, of course, it was Massacre Time was retitled Brute and the Beast, correct?
Right.
For American audiences.
American International distributed. And he did a lot of work with Franco Nero. But like we said, like with these other guys, Fulci also was directing Eurocrime. He was, touching on everything. And in some cases, a lot of these guys also were directing comedies. We've kind of forgotten about that aspect. Franco and Ciccio or something.
Sure. Yep.
And very often they were takeoffs on another American hit.
Yeah, they're parodies. Yep.
That's
parody
right. And
films.
there was like their own Forrest Gump. I think Fulci may have even directed it. And the actual Italian translation is, Peepo, you have the brain of a squirrel. And that was their Forrest Gump movie.
It's probably better than Silver Saddle, though, Court.
No. Silver Saddle is in my top 10.
Yeah, Silver Saddle.
It came late in the genre, but it's great. It's really good.
That's okay.
No, shut up, Jay. We're going to talk about White Fang then.
White Fang is next, Court, so get ready.
But as you said, and I think one of the cool things too, when you look at the Western work of, say, somebody like Lucio Fulci, even though all these movies generally were made for very compromised money. And of course, they were trying to stretch the dollars as far as they could go in Spain or wherever it is they were filming them.
Yep.
I think also, though, that in many cases, they were perhaps having a little bit more money to play with than their previous films if they were doing the Westerns.
Sure.
So they were stretching their muscles. And then when Fulci does Zombie, it is this just smashing worldwide success. Of course, there's definitely the tie-in to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody, I saw it at the State Theater up there on the Hollywood Boulevard. Absolutely everybody was talking about the sliver of wood piercing, I think it's Pharaoh's
right in their eye.
Right.
And it just freaked everybody out. And suddenly Lucio Fulci was reborn in a brand new genre.
Absolutely. I saw that late at night. I guess what's it called? The Walk of the Zombies, or the March of the Zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, dun. With that poster, I'm like 13 or 14. I'm like, it's midnight. I'm tired. I got my milk and cookies, and that comes on, and I'm hooked. And I see it like at least 10 times in Westwood, Hollywood Boulevard, midnight show.
That shot that they stole of the zombies coming across the bridge in New York, and it wasn't the Brooklyn Bridge, it was another bridge, is astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, there's so many classic scenes. I mean, the guy recognizes his wife. It's not your wife, and she bites, and the prosthetics on the neck without a cut. It's from the lurch-in, the grasping of it, the tearing out, and the gore. It's like that was, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
no CGI,
and Maniac, and Zombie were kind of the triple header for that time period with video cassettes. At $99 now that are worth a nickel. But, you'd see these prestigious video box covers in video stores for like Zombie and Dawn of the Dead and Texas Chainsaw.
Absolutely.
And Tom, I know it's a whole other genre for you, but.
I'm familiar with them. I never really got into them that deep.
Yeah, well, it's okay. A lot of blood and squirting guts and stuff, but there's a story to it, and it's done actually very artfully. And stuff like that. But no, Zombie, go ahead, Court.
Well, also, too, Jay, one of the things about a lot of the horror films that we're talking about is that they, even if they were low budget, very often they were co-productions with American companies. So they would shoot scenes in, like Gates of Hell. They would shoot scenes in Georgia.
Right. In the States, yeah.
Exactly. The Beyond, they shot in Louisiana. And Zombie, of course, they were stealing the stuff from New York. But that was kind of part and parcel of the formula that meant that these movies were going to get a wider, I think, reach and more distribution, unfortunately, than a lot of the Westerns that preceded them from the same people.
Right. Well, as I said, mostly they crossed over into horror, Westerns, giallo, spy, those Euro spy films, all this from Nero to you name it, Hill. They've all made John Philip Law. They all do the different, because that's the whole theme of this show, is the journeyman, whether it's the director, the actor. We're focusing on certain posters and horror films, just so we could show you that there is kind of a little intermingling between the genres, whether it's giallo, Euro spy, horror, spaghetti Western, because they're all made with the same actors, all moving from set to set.
I mean, did anyone rack up as many Euro credits through the 60s and 70s as Klaus Kinski?
Oh.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we did a whole, like, almost 3-hour show on him.
And
Was
well,
it
that's
3,
what it
Tom?
would
It seemed
take.
like 3.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! He never stopped.
Right. Okay, so let's move back, I guess, to Tom, Mario Bava, Roy Colt, and Winchester Louis. So, Courtney, what do you think about this film?
Well, I think that Bava is kind of in an interesting spot because he, I think, certainly had the chops and the opportunity to really go more wild with the Euro Westerns than he did. He kind of held back. He knew what he wanted to do and stayed within the horror. And of course, he loved comedy, so he was always dabbling in that, like Dr. Goldfoot and the Girl Bombs and movies like that. Now, you had Brett on the show. What was his feeling?
When we interviewed Charles Southwood back when I had the fanzine, we dug him up in Oregon, and he basically told us that when, after the second day or so, Bava threw the script away. He just stayed with the basic storyline, and they did a day-to-day shooting of it. So I asked Brett, when we had Brett on, he says, that sounds about right. So I think what they did was they would just sit down at the beginning of the day and write out what they were going to do that day, because like you said, basically it's a comedy Western. So they would just put scenes together and go out and do it.
Right. Also, Ringo from Nebraska, Tom. Another Ken Clark classic.
Yeah, that's what's the other name for that thing? Savage Gringo?
Yes,
I don't use that term. Sorry, boys.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, now this one's more hard hitting than Roy Colt and Winchester Jack.
It's Ken Clark at his meanest, Court.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, maybe. Well, also I think that with Bava, there was the kind of simultaneous situation with him. It wasn't just the Westerns leading into the next success, because he was already working with American International, Black Sunday, and these things. So, and of course, Black Sabbath with Boris Karloff, and then, oh my God, The Whip in the Body with Christopher Lee, which I think is just wonderful. And so I think he was having a little bit of his own choices there. Did the Westerns probably wanted to do. Now, don't forget, too, with Bava, one thing that does set him apart from a lot of these other guys who working in Europe is that he worked for a major Western director. Raoul Walsh.
Yep. I think the Westerns that he did was he was hired to do a Western, so that's what he did.
Yes.
He didn't do experimental. He didn't bring in outside factors that he thought might be interesting to experiment with. He was hired to be a director or a writer, and that's what he did.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that he did look at this, the Westerns, as strictly assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got back into, say, something like Planet of the Vampires or later on
Then
Bay
it
of
was,
Blood and
yeah,
things like
then
that,
it was okay now, yeah.
he just, he went nuts because he loved the genre so much, and he thought he could visually experiment. There's whipping the body right there.
Yep.
Right, yeah. Christopher Lee. Surprisingly, he'd make a spaghetti western. What's the closest western he did?
Christopher
Corey?
Lee was in Hanny Calder.
He sure was, and he is great.
Wow.
in
Yeah, he has a very good
How did
part
I
in there.
forget that?
Gunsmith, yep.
Yep.
It was so okay because I was focused on Hanny, I guess. Oh well. No, thank you for. I've gone 30, 40 years thinking, why didn't Chris Lee appear? I did.
Yes, dude. Yes. No, and he is really good in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, that's what Bava is known for, is mostly Italian horror films from that era. Of course, we have Twitch of the Death Nerve or Bay of Blood.
Which is, I think, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, here, again, unlike the Westerns, which you said were the assignments, here's a movie that could have been just a straightforward, kind of an Italian horror. And literally, this man created, for good or ill, the slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th, any of these things would never have existed without this film. And certainly the approach to the violence. Even beyond, in some ways, what Dario Argento was doing. Because Argento, it was wild and very eccentric.
Yeah.
But the Bava stuff, there was a different feel to it, a different tone. And it was completely also different than what he had done previously. So I always think that's a real, strong point.
Eye-opener, yeah.
Yeah, he always wanted to do something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he did, and great cinematographer as well. And he probably deserves his own show.
He worked for Fellini.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah. And okay, so we covered, I guess, Bava films, just like that. And I guess we can move on to Albert Band, your man, with Massacre at Grand Canyon.
What tells about that? What's the relationship with him and Corbucci? Did they co-direct it? I mean, that's another one that's got question marks like Don Taylor.
I think no. Well, Albert, of course, did several movies with Corbucci, and including the Hellbenders.
Mm-hmm.
And Albert, of course, spoke Italian. He was based in Italy. He had been working on the Peplums, and this is, as we said, this was after the period when he had been in the United States and was as closely associated with John Huston and Asphalt Jungle and Red Badge of Courage. So, and he loved Westerns. Remember, he did the first movie that was ever titled Young Guns.
Oh, yeah,
with Russ Tamblyn for Allied Artists. And so when he went to Italy and suddenly the Euro-Western came along, I think one of the things that Albert was able to bring to the table that maybe Corbucci at this point could not is the participation of some pretty strong American actors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here we are, we're looking at the poster for A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, which is a movie I absolutely adore. But not only that Alex Cord was, really everybody was kind of looking at him because of the remake of Stagecoach and things like that he was going to break out. But my God, Arthur Kennedy, terrific. He was doing a lot of work in Europe. But Robert Ryan is terrific in this movie. And it's a big part. It's not one of those little throwaway cameos.
Very strong part, too, because he's the governor. Yes.
Absolutely. And he teams up with Alex Cord to fight the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was, Albert was such a good producer. And I think he and Corbucci had a wonderful symmetry together. And they really complemented each other. And
you mentioned that. Remember, Massacre at Grand Canyon was Corbucci's first Western.
Yep.
So I'm sure he leaned quite a bit on Band because he had the experience. The problem I run into sometimes is they put co-directors, and they're not really co-directors. One's the director. The other one is the second unit director who does all the action shots and stuff. But for some reason, they give them co-billing. And so that question's always come up about who was the real director on that film, because people can't understand that there could be two directors, on certain shots. They say, well, yeah, Albert, you're more experienced in this. Take this one, and I'll learn from you on this.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sure that was the case because, of course, Albert was also producing all of these movies.
Right.
And certainly when they did Massacre at Grand Canyon, there the money was, I think, a lot tighter than it would have been on Hellbenders.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly a lot tighter than it was on A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, which with full American partners.
Right.
Right.
Here's one of Albert's early directing efforts. And,
Right. Is this Courtney? Is this the one where he puts the pins near the?
This is the one. Yep.
He controls who lives and who dies, I guess.
Yep.
I saw that late night. Actually, one of those copies that came from wasn't Video Search. It was another company, if you remember, out there that put out all the black and white horror. The name escapes me. Back in the day, in the '80s, which reminds me of Westerns all'Italiana, Tom. But anyway, good film. They also made Face of Fire. So
Right. And Face of Fire was a European production because they actually made that movie in Sweden.
Mm.
And it's a wonderful movie. And once again, look at the origin point. It's Stephen Crane, just like Red Badge of Courage,
Mm-hmm.
from the short story The Monster. And of course, he had adapted Red Badge for John Huston.
And let's see what else we have. We also have in that slew of, I guess, non-spaghetti westerns. Just don't forget Zoltan, the Hound of Hell.
Oh, Albert's favorite joke was, he had a hard time finding a dog that looked like Bela Lugosi. He loved that joke.
So this was just a joke film?
And it's fine. It's a real kind of throwaway drive-in picture, but Jose Ferrer was a very good friend of Albert's, and so he, threw himself in there and said, "Why not?"
Sure.
Oh, okay. And then let's see. We're moving through all these are fun posters. Let's end on. Oh, we got a couple more good ones. Ghoulies 2.
There you go. They'll get you in the end.
Right. Now, Court, these films were made when the video market was booming, and I'm sure the Rogers and the bands, they all saw, that there was money to be made for these either straight to DVD, straight to video, get a couple B or actors, get some capable effects people. Was it Grimaldi or what's his name?
This, of course, was John Buechler.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And Ghoulies 2 was made in Italy. Charlie was starting to do films in Italy. In fact, for a while, he took the lease out on, I want to say it was Cinecittà.
Could be. They were on the downside.
So they started to do movies in Italy, of course. And don't forget, Albert spoke Italian. He was completely, part of that world. Oh, I know that movie.
Who did that?
Oh, good heavens. That was to finally work with Albert as a producer director on that. And he and Charlie co-directed, but Charlie was so busy running the company. And so it really was Albert. And I just loved Albert Band. He was just a great guy. And we were very lucky with this because Paramount wanted something that was a little different than what Full Moon was doing at that point. Jack Kirby this was his concept, a very Doctor Strange type of thing. But then they handed it to me to write. And so I got to work very closely with Albert on this. And then I directed a movie right after this, and Albert produced it.
Cool.
Yeah, Cora, what the hell happened to me? I think people forget. They don't forget that you made some classic horror films as well, like The Offspring, Dr. Mordred. Did you write or have anything to do with Burial of the Rats at all, Court?
No, I didn't. That was Dan Golden's movie, and
Okay.
he did that. That was for Roger, and I think they shot most of it in Russia, if I'm not
Or
mistaken.
Romania or something like
Hmm.
that, or
I think actually it was Russia because I know that
okay,
they did some additional. That's the one with Maria Ford,
right? And Robert England, right? Or
and I'm trying to think of
I'm
the
confusing
actor
all of those films.
who was in. He played Bram Stoker. I can't remember his name. He was a nice fellow, but he was Maria Ford's boyfriend.
Okay.
And then they shot some additional material here. But no, Adrienne Barbeau, remember, was in it as the Queen of the Rats.
Oh, okay. Now it's now bringing back memories. All right, I think we're going to move on to our next slew of films from another good director, of course. We actually we've talked about this ad infinitum, but if you can give your 2 cents, Cord, on Compañeros.
Well, when you get into the situation with Corbucci, he just found, I think, just this inspiration and also this great commercial place. Tom, would you agree? Because everything he did through this period, certainly the revolutionary westerns, I mean, they were bigger and bigger and bigger, and he did a beautiful job on them.
Yeah, because we talked with last week. Was it last week we did the Sergios? Anyways, we talked about Corbucci and Compañeros and the Mercenary are like bookends.
Yes.
Compañeros is a little bit more lighthearted and funny because of Milian, and then Mercenary is more dark, heavier. But yeah, he got into a niche here where he just put it on cruise control, and they all came out like top tier movies. And they were Morricone, of course, did the scores. He had great actors in there, and they were fun films. Yep.
And of course, Morricone, going back to the Albert Band stuff, he did Hellbender and those movies. Now, of course, Corbucci, as far as the horror work, he goes all the way back to the Peplums, Goliath and the Vampires, which, my God. I have the half sheet on linen in my bathroom, by the way. That's, I love that movie. But as you said, this was, again, it was in the wonderful documentary that Bill Lustig put out. I'm trying to remember who the interview is with. It might be Corbucci. I honestly cannot remember. But he says straight out, there it is. What killed us in the Westerns, he says, is what killed us in every single genre. We made too many of them, and we just drove it right into the ground.
Yep. And it's a shame because we talked last week after the comedy movies came out, and that was the really downslide. At 76, 77, they came out with Silver Saddle and Manaya, Man Called Blade, and a couple of other ones that were really good. They went back to the hard westerns.
Yep.
So I mean, they had the good screenplays and the stories, but they had run them into the ground, like you said, and the audience was ready to move on to something else.
Well,
and also too, we were at the point, don't you think, where they were no longer getting, the big participation with people like Charles Bronson and even Alain Delon, and so they were pulling, the talent pool also was pulling back because they were doing other things.
Yeah, well, they created them and made them big stars, and they paid the price because they went back to America and on to other countries and made films.
That's right.
And so the Italians and the Spaniards were left with what they had created, home material. The Italian actors.
Right, and then let's not, of course, not forget then a slew that Corbucci made that Tom and I have talked in infinitum. We can ask you your opinion, I guess, on Django, Cord. Is that the best spaghetti western of all time, or top 5?
Well, it's certainly in the top 5, and now the whole thing of, well, was it Fistful of Dollars? Of course, getting all the approbation and what have you. I've always looked at the movies really as coexisting. The stranger motif, well, that was not original to either movie, so that's fine. But of course, Django is, how do we put it? It's not. It's more heightened than Fistful of Dollars is. as far as with the machine gun and the coffin and all of that, just glorious stuff. Whereas within the Leones, whatever the actions of Joe or the man with no name, it's still very Western traditional, if you will. It's still a gunfight in the street. It's still, those kinds of setups. He's getting beaten up or he's beating somebody up or what have you. Or Django, it's just, my God, Katie bar the door because absolutely anything can happen. I think that's a big difference between the two movies.
One of the problems is, since most of us never saw Django for 20 years, if they'd have been released when it came out, then you'd be comparing Fistful and Django, like you said, would have been bang.
Yep.
But 20 years, like I told Jay and the viewers, most of you have to watch this the first time in 1965, 1966 eyes, because the violence with the machine gun today is like, well, big deal. Arnold does that in every movie he makes. Yep. But you go back to that time frame, and like you said, that's just explosive. That would just blew everybody's socks off.
Oh, absolutely. And of course now, because of Quentin's own interest in, titling the Will Smith movie.
Yeah, Django and Shane, yep.
Django and Shane. People now get even further confused. And good Lord, Jay, if you didn't know your own history of spaghetti western, someone said, go watch a Django movie, and you Google it, and you get 7,000 titles.
Right.
Yeah.
And you go, what the hell is this?
They're all just average guys who are never called Django in the film.
Yes.
To a comedy name, and they go, who's this Django character?
Yeah. I always like.
Yeah, who's Robert Widmark?
Right. Yeah. We were doing a show on him soon. I always like when I guess Nero was interviewed, and he said he suggested that Django be his, I guess, son. Or something like that, and I thought that's a great idea. And anyway, they didn't go with it, and of course, Tarantino's going to do what Tarantino wants to do. I would have given Nero a bigger, better part, but that's, make Django do a cameo as Django in a Django movie.
Yeah,
that's just me. That's why I do what I do, and I get the hours of sleep that I get. But then from then, Corbucci dabbled again with the Evil Eye.
Absolutely. Well, he wrote The Evil Eye, and of course, Mario Bava directed it. And I always wondered if, in fact, Corbucci was supposed to direct this film. But American International said, no, we want to, we're having such good success with Mario Bava, and, he's on a bit of a roll, so let's stay with him.
Right. And then he closed it off with, we can briefly mention Death Walks at Midnight. Decent film, Court.
Oh, yes. Well, of course, again, he is making that shift into the giallos, which a lot of them did, and Eurocrime, because that's what was popular again. And Evil Eye, I believe that is the retitling of The Girl Who Knew Too Much, correct?
Oh, you're asking me, right, Court?
Yes, I am.
Right. I know Death Walks at Midnight has an alternate title. I'm trying to think of what it is without.
And by the way,
going on Wikipedia.
Please save me, because I think I said Will Smith with Django. It's Jamie Foxx. I just realized that.
Yeah, right.
Either one would have been fine.
Wild West is Will Smith.
I don't want to be accused of anything.
There you go. That's right.
I don't know. So anyway, that leaves the Corbucci aspect. You see how he jumped from a different genre to genre, which is fascinating with all these people. I mean, these are the main people that did jump and go back and forth. Others just stayed the course and did, one type of film. So now we're going to get to the man who, I guess, he wore an eye patch. Since what year, Court? What year did he put on the eye patch?
Oh gosh, Andre de Toth. Boy, I don't know when he started. Yes, with his eye patch. I can tell you this. My Andre de Toth encounter, because a very good friend of mine, Patrick Francis, did a great documentary about de Toth. But Jeff Burr and Andre de Toth had the same podiatrist.
Oh, good.
And so Jeff calls me up and he goes, "Get ready, we're going to go meet Andre de Toth." So we literally went to Jeff's foot doctor where Andre de Toth is having like an ingrown toenail or something land.
What do you boys want, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's Andre de Toth trapped because he's got his foot in a thing, you know. And it
Was that spelled?
like House
Did he
of
spell
Wax.
his name? Did he spell his name at that day at Toeth? Tito?
Oh, it was great because Jeff had I think he had I want to say he had a poster from Play Dirty, I think, and I had a lobby card from House of Wax, and that poor old guy was trapped. He was not happy, you know. He was kind of a grumpy Gus, but we got him.
As opposed to meeting them in the grocery store, they're right next to you shopping, which is easier. You just tap, got your dozen eggs today, Andre? So then he'd still look at you funny and probably leave quickly. But he probably, as soon as you introduced yourselves and you got to know him, I'm sure it was fine.
No, it was a lot of fun. But when, Jay, when we were talking about the parallels between these American directors and what happened with the European directors who, as I said, have become iconic and revered for certain genre work, when in fact, in many cases, they were assignments, and they went from picture to picture to picture. Andre de Toth had a wonderful string with Randolph Scott, as I said, Riding Shotgun. Don't forget Stranger with a Gun, which was in 3D. And a lot of those films he did at Warner Brothers, and also a Springfield Rifle with Gary Cooper, and Ramrod, which is just considered tremendously good. It's not considered, it is, and my personal favorite, Day of the Outlaw, with Robert Ryan and Burl Ives. And the thing is, in the middle of all of this, remember too, he was a replacement director, comes House of Wax, which you talk to anybody, a lot of people aren't even aware, sadly, of some of Andre de Toth's other works. But you say House of Wax, and boom, they know exactly what it is.
He made a string of like Gary Cooper type westerns, and very talented guy. Just think what he could have done with if he had two good eyes. Court, what do you think?
Well, what I love about Springfield Rifle is this was done very closely after High Noon. So you see Lon Chaney in High Noon, and he's all arthritic and what have you. And in Springfield Rifle, he and Gary Cooper are slashing each other with knives and beating the hell out of each other. It's great.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, you're right. You say de Toth, I say de Toth, and I'm probably the wrong one in the wrong. But anyway, of course, House of Wax is legendary. One of the great. It's a cultural phenomena that I guess launched Vincent Price into just never-ending stardom.
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting concept. If you stick around, I'll show you how it's done.
And Charles Bronson,
of course.
Quiz time for you both. What Euro Western was he involved in? De Toth.
Okay.
He was a director.
I know.
Da, 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 da. Okay, what's the answer, Tom?
Yeah.
El Condor. He was the producer.
Oh, that's right. He was a producer. Yep. That's right.
Yep.
He sure was. Yeah, John Gillerman directing.
Yep.
El Condor was a remake of Cattle Drive, Court.
Really?
No.
Without the gold in the fortress.
Right. I was just being funny. Anyway, no, Andre de Toth made a string of really good films.
But here, there again, that's another great example. Here's a Euro Western and a big budget one made with U.S. dollars and all that stuff. A British director who, of course, directed King Kong.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
But of course, if he's known for anything, you go, well, John Gillerman. Why do I know that name? I would immediately, go to, oh my gosh, what is that fantastic crime film he did with Peter Sellers? Don't Hold Back. Do you know the film I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Car theft ring.
Mm-hmm.
It is fantastic. I think Gillerman also wrote it. But now, of course, people would just say The Towering Inferno.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, another example would be Jacques Tournier. who actually made some great noir films as well.
Well, out of the past,
And
of course.
right. And yeah, I mean, of course, the top 10 horror film of all time, Curse of the Demon. I won't be back, but something will.
Yes.
I don't know. I think the cat people are right there with that one.
Actually, I think I misquoted. That's a different film. So, no, the one is.
No, the quote you just hit was Charles Gray in The Devil's Bride.
I always confuse that scene with, "Oh, mother, you've done it again."
Yes.
You know, "Oh, mother, what have you done?" That, or how about he closes his eyes to change the weather? Done. These are in little tidbits of scenes that are so fun. From Night of the Demon, Curse of the Demon.
You remember them.
Is that a mistake to show the creature at the end or during the sequences, or should they?
I love that creature design. I know Charles Bennett, because I used to see him at this barber shop in Beverly Hills, and I got to talk to him. He was great. He was my God, I can't even imagine how old he was at that time. But he always brought up the fact that Hal Chester, the producer, had insisted upon the demon to be seen, and that Columbia Pictures wanted it. I love that demon. It's iconic.
You know, it's it is iconic, but it's one of the few films with The Haunting that could get away with not showing a monster, just the sounds and the knocking, and then with the chains. Before chain rattling became
oh, good Lord,
chic. You know, you did it back in the day, not for a Groovy Ghoulies episode. But those two, The Haunting, I always watch those back to back, and Night of the Demon, Curse of the Demon.
Well, but okay, we're talking about directors jumping between genres. Look at Robert Wise. Now, Robert Wise was not a big guy for Westerns. He wasn't that comfortable with them, but he directed two really good ones, Blood on the Moon and Tribute to a Bad Man.
Yeah.
And of course, he was good at every single genre he tackled, but he loved horror and science fiction and always went back to it.
Right. Tom, do you remember seeing Night of the Demon as a kid?
Yeah. I mean, I'll confess, I watched Svengoolie on Saturday nights from Chicago, and they show some of those old Universal and Hammer stuff. I still get a kick out of them today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's...
If I could get up, I would go get my Super 8, Columbia Super 8 version of Night of the Demon. It's on a shelf in the other room.
Well, I don't want you to chop it up live on...
No, of course not, but there we are.
You know how many home movies I've destroyed with an old Super 8 projector. Anyway, speaking of Jacques Tournier, of course, The Cat People.
There you go.
That's a good one.
And is the one with the little girl Return of the Cat People, Court?
Curse of the Cat People.
Curse, yeah. That one, there's not a dry eye in the house.
That was co-directed by Robert Wise.
Well, there you go. That classic scene, which I won't give away. Well, I will give it away. Where the evil, what's her name, the actress, Elizabeth Allen?
Elizabeth Russell.
And she is this very mean mother who doesn't anything to do with the girl. And at the end, just when you think, she's going to strangle her, because that's the whole point that she's been doing during the whole movie. And just when she goes, my friend, or something like that. Right?
Yep.
I don't want to confuse that with Frankenstein. Friend.
But, and I always love, don't forget, Cat People, Jane Randolph from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah, right. Yep.
He goes in and out, whenever you say anything with Abbott and Costello, I break into something.
Who's on first? Yeah.
Right. So, good thing I'm not doing my Costello impression. But Cat People, classic film noir, Court.
And, out of the past, of course, is
Bob Mitchum.
Set the bar for everyone. And but that's the thing, Tourneur, again, then he fell into, I think it was a very good relationship he had with Joel McCrea. And so Cattle Drive and Stars in My Crown and these movies during the 50s. And they just were in sync. A wonderful star-director relationship, much like Andre de Toth had with Randy Scott. And I think I heard it, but
That's true because Joel McCrea just is so natural in his acting, and so is Randolph Scott in his movies. It's not like they're really trying to act; they're just being themselves, which is great because they're great Western actors.
Yes, and it's and when Tornor, I think again, are we talking about career decisions, or are we talking about that these guys were so effective as filmmakers they could in fact move from genre to genre with so much ease and consummate skill they could pull off basically anything you presented to them.
Yeah, well, like you said, Robert Wise, he didn't like to do westerns, but he did two great ones.
Yep.
So it shows that, I mean, even though he didn't like the genre, he could produce.
Absolutely.
So a lot of it is the man. Yep, get what they can.
Right. So let's just show the poster real quick for Curse of the Demon.
There it is.
Yep.
Yep.
There's the monster. Stonehenge.
Behind Peggy Cummings.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we've basically said that's the top of all. I just wanted to show the poster because we share posters here. And then last but not least, I guess he did this talk about going from one end of the spectrum to the other. We did Comedy of Terrors.
There you go.
That great lineup.
That was so good.
Yes, we could pick it up. Yes, I have that in the other room on the wall, and the insert.
Right.
But that poster, of course, painted by Reynold Brown, absolutely gorgeous. But no, unfortunately, Trenor's final film during his AIP period was not particularly good, and that is War Gods of the Deep.
With Vincent, or no, Lon Chaney?
That was Vincent.
Okay.
And Susan Hart. And they really did some of the gorgeous sets of Dan Holler and all of that stuff. Just beautiful. But the movie is, unfortunately, it's kind of half-assed Jules Verne and not too good.
Right.
I have the Super 8 200 footer, of course. In fact, I think it's right behind me.
Well, I'm sure if you could point it out, where is it? Go ahead.
Let's see. Where is it? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's Master of the World that I have.
Oh,
I do have it. It's around here somewhere.
Hi, I'm Robar.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and there's the soundtrack album too, right there. See?
Wow. Like it's the new actor mansion over there, the Joyner mansion.
Well, the
Did
very
you ever go to the Acker mansion
apartment?
Did you ever go to the Acker mansion?
I did. I was up there with a friend of Forey's. I was only in there twice. But at least I was at the original house that he bought from John Hall that was over by House of Pies. Yep. And, when I had, you've got to go through Grizzly Land and all that stuff. So, and he took me down to his office and I saw the book collection and everything.
Oh, yeah.
That was wonderful.
The sub-basement.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. I went once and that was, walk around in awe.
Yeah, and I was there one time only. I'm shocked. You would think I would be there multiple times, but no, only was able to get there once. And I remember, come on in. Welcome to California.
You bet.
And I'd say, my name's Jay, by the way. Jay, by the way. And that's what he called me the rest of the afternoon.
Jay, by the way?
Oh, Jay, by the way. Let me show you Lugosi's ring. I'm like, okay, it's just Jay.
I'll tell you, the second time I went to the old house, I guess I was in Forey's, the last little place he was in once. But the second time I went, and I don't know if someone had said something to him or whatever, but Forey had saved, because he got books sent to him all the time, a whole box of Westerns from paperbacks from all these different, and he put them in a box for me to take with me when I left.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That was neat.
Yeah.
Very,
he was that type
cool.
of guy. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So, we've all dabbled. I mean, this show's about a certain genre, but we all have other genres that Tom's saying if his pizza's ready. If the genres work, then it's a fun film. If they don't, that was time wasted.
Well,
a glass of wine.
We talked to Courtney the other day. All these genres, starting with peplums, spaghetti westerns, crime films, the giallos, the horror. They go for about 20 years, 25 years, and a lot of the same people are in them.
Absolutely.
So even if you're not a big spaghetti Western fan, but you're a horror fan, European horror fan, you know these people. And that opens the doors for you to go look at those films, like you said, Court. Go back and see what they did in Westerns or Peplums or whatever. And you're always discovering something new, because in the early days of Peplums, a lot of these guys were so young, they weren't accredited. And you'll watch one, oh my God, there's so-and-so, you know? There's Juliana Gemma as a guard.
Right. One of my favorite ones of that was Steve Reeves, who could be called a journeyman. Peplum, sword and sword, you know, sandal, spaghetti Western, the lone one, you know, Hercules movies. I have a fondness for Thief of Baghdad for some odd reason. I had to get one of those in. But of course, I think he told me that Bava directed that, the scene where the trees attack the sleeping.
Oh gosh, I love that scene.
Yeah, and I said, he goes, I think he did. He told me when we saw him in an autograph show. Tom and I were at the same autograph show, but we didn't know it, Court. Probably all three of us were.
I'm sure, yeah.
Well,
those were good days.
Well, you know, Aldo Sambrell, what's always so amazing, of course, he was such a working character actor, but my gosh, I mean, you're going, wait, you're looking at Dr. Zhivago, and you're going, wait a minute, is that the guy from Navajo Joe?
Yeah. Yeah,
then,
exactly.
Wait, there he is in the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and yeah,
they pop up. And once you know who they are, because when I first saw Fistful of Dollars, and then for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, those Spanish actors, supporting actors, were in all of them.
yes.
So you got to know their faces, and then you'd see them in Hellbenders and Navajo Joe and whatever, and that's where I first saw Aldo and recognized who he was, and you know, you pick him out everywhere.
Sure, Battle of the Bulge. You know, yeah.
And these
Robert
great
Wood.
characters.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, we did almost a show on that about these many different spaghetti Western faces. Tom, tell her you'll be home for dinner.
Quentin Tarantino again.
Oh,
He won't leave
just
me
put him
alone.
on off, please. He never stops. Anyway, no, I mean that was the whole point of Spaghetti Westerns, of putting this podcast together, was not only to discuss those, but when we have a guest on like Court, who's, you know, knowledge far beyond just Spaghetti Westerns, we want to find out things, little stories about what went on in different sets, or what director did something else that we didn't know about. So Court, thank you so much for your wealth of information.
Yeah, fantastic.
No, this has been a ball. And oh wait, you want me to bring an autograph?
Well, yeah, we do it in segments.
We do segments.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to bring the kind of the show's theme to an end before we move on to what you're doing now and things you want to mention.
The other segments are the after show.
Oh, okay.
This is the main show. And then we do the after show with just Jay and me type of thing.
Yeah, champagne, crackers, caviar, the whole thing, Court. So your stewardess will be by in a second. Just
get your order.
Great.
Here on Spaghetti Western Airlines.
Yeah.
So Court, so you've of course directed some great films. I've mentioned a few. You wrote in some great books on westerns. You have a couple novels out on the net. What's it called, Court? Remind me, please.
Oh, well, the
Neptune Rising.
Nemo Rising is the sequel
Nemo
to
Rising.
Yeah, Nemo Rising is a sequel to
Sorry.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which has been.
Well, let me know. I got a 6-year-old, so that's why I said it.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's been optioned again. Thank goodness for a television show, so maybe we'll have to see it. So,
And you had a board game,
there was
Neptune
a board
Rising.
game to it. Yes, in fact.
What happens when you got to the end? You got out of the whale's mouth and you win the gold, or what's up with that?
Oh, no. This is right from the novel. And in fact, let's see. I can even.
While he's looking for that, we should make a Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns board game.
Oh.
You know, every time the mic goes out, you go back to start.
If you want, I've got one right here, actually.
Right. See episode 4.
Yes.
Right.
And
There
you
we
have
go.
5 seconds. Wow.
Nemo Rising. Okay.
Court, how many, show it again. How many
There it is.
authors have, I guess, board games named after?
Well, there you go. Yeah, I guess I'm in a pretty rare category, but
No, I'd say it's super rare. That's really cool.
yeah, they did a beautiful job on it. And the plot of the novel is it's like the Wild Wild West. Captain Nemo did not die at the end of 20,000 Leagues. He is in prison in Virginia at the Devil's Warehouse, and they're going to hang him for treason for sinking the USS Abraham Lincoln, which of course is what happened in 20,000 Leagues. And they're having all sorts of problems out in the ocean. President Grant doesn't know what the hell's going on, so they have to stop the execution, get Nemo out of prison, and basically rebuild the Nautilus to send him out to sea to find out what's going on. And what is going on is Robor the Conqueror. So it is Nemo of the sky versus Nemo of the ocean.
Wow. No, that's incredible. And I'm sure you have more stuff in the works, more books in that noggin of yours.
Fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, when you're not writing something, it's a screenplay or a book but what about on any films once this craziness is over coming up, Court? Anything to report on?
Well, I've written a few pilots for did one for Shout and a couple of others, but nothing that's been greenlit as of yet. I mean, fortunately, I've gotten paid for the writing, but actually, during this period, guys, as you know, it's been great to not only do some creating, but also to do a lot of commentaries and a lot of documentaries and things. And what do we have coming out? I co-produced and we did the commentaries on the Inner Sanctum Mystery Blu-ray set that's coming from Mill Creek.
It's like 5 or 6 films?
All 6 movies.
Wow.
Episodes of the radio show, a documentary, and this is really cool, a never before seen filmed interview with Martin Koslick from about 1972. And he talks about his period at Universal and all of that stuff. And just when
let me get this in, Court. Ready? This is the Inner Sanctum.
Yes, that's it. But we did some commentaries. In fact, this was really great. I knew the director Reginald Laborg when I was in college, and The Black Sleep and The Mummy's Ghost and 3 of the Inner Sanctums, and he also directed a lot of westerns. And he was a great old guy. And Donald Reed used to always,
Dr. Reed?
We're giving Reginald LaBorge a very special award this afternoon. Yeah.
Let's wait for Courtney to come back from the restroom.
Yes. So, but I actually was able to contact Reggie's daughter, Regina, and she came and did the commentary with me on her dad's movie. And what's really cool, and she's such a nice person, and she goes, well, I don't know. J. Carroll Nash is my godfather. Should I talk about that? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Really.
That's awesome. No,
it's neat. And so we did the commentary together on that one.
You do a lot of DVD commentaries, the extras, so to speak, and you even you said something about Hammer to me before the show.
Yeah, we're working right now on a set of 20 Hammer films. It's also coming out from Mill Creek. It's called the Hammer Ultimate Collection or something. And it is 20 films during Hammer's period with Columbia. So several of the Gothics, including Revenge of Frankenstein and The Gorgon, but Yesterday's Enemy, Cash on Demand, Camp on Blood Island, The Devil Ship Pirates, and a lot of films, I think, too, that people may not be entirely exposed to. Die, My Darling, for example, and
films Tallulah Bankhead.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm trying, fingers crossed, that we should have a very special guest doing a commentary on that with me, but she hasn't said yes yet, but I think so.
Oh, knowing you and your charms, Court, it should work out fine.
We've got a lot of she's that haven't said yes to us here too.
Yeah, well, it's a long list.
Right. They say get in line. Yeah. But, Court, we're getting a lot of comments today saying how much and Tom do as well, as the fan base, we are enjoying the background, all your posters and lobby cards. So it's kind of like it's one of many rooms that are decorated like that.
Thank you.
As I said, we got to go down to the Joyner Mansion and give a tour. But now I guess it's for a good time. I guess we're going to do our three ofs the week. And we have, I guess, book of the week, autograph of the week, and LP of the week. Although, Tom, I forget, did you send me a link to anything?
I sent you a link to the album of the week, but we can do it without the music.
Okay. Somehow, Gertrude, who I rehired, I fired her last week. Courtney, she does the lights and the mic and my makeup, and she's about 93. Next week, 94, Gert? Okay. So I rehired her, and she's doing good now. But anyway, so book of the week. Tom, you want to go first, or?
Well, since we had Courtney on, I had to use, this is my book of the week, Western Portraits. We've talked about this before. All the photographs were taken by Steve Carver, and basically what you and I are familiar with is sepia tone. And they have all the greats in here. I wrote down some of the spaghetti Western actors in here, Jay. Richard Harrison's in here. John Savage is in here. Henry Silva's in here. Paul Smith. Fred Williamson. Harris Yulin. R.G. Armstrong. A lot of them. And then for the bios, Courtney wrote all the bios for this. And it was launched, what, about a year ago now?
Almost exactly. It was last November.
Yeah. And they had a couple of book signings, and all of a sudden the COVID hit, and that stopped. But I'm sure once we get to go ahead, they'll be back out on the trail again. But it's a fantastic book, and if you're a Western fan, you got to pick it up. It's available on Amazon, Autry Museum. What's the bookstore in Burbank that you had the signing on?
Dark Delicacies.
Dark Delicacies. It's available there too. I know those three places carry it. So that's my book of the week.
Court, you got a book of the week?
As a matter of fact, I do. I always go back to basics, and the bookshelf that right there collapsed. So I have all this stuff spread across on the floor, and I won't show the destruction. But I was moving stuff around. I said, you know what? I haven't sat down. This copy, if we can get it so it's not all blown out. There we go. Valdez is coming. Is a library copy I picked up in South Carolina for a quarter.
Wow.
A long, long time ago.
Yeah. I think I got a paperback.
And I just, and I had that paperback with the great painting of him being crucified. But this one just keeps getting kicked around. It keeps coming back. And I think it is absolutely it's a true classic of Western literature and one of the great examples of Elmore Leonard's, astounding ability. I just think it's tremendous.
Awesome.
And
then Tom, I finally
always go back to Dutch.
We're at week 17. I'm finally going to unleash.
Pull the trigger.
A few other people said they have it as well, but it's the Western All'Italiana, the 3 volume set.
Nothing to do with my Westerns All'Italiana.
Right.
So don't ask me for copies.
It's got, I don't know if I can even show.
Yeah.
Let's try. Hold on. This is the original that has, let's see, I'm getting caught. Poster among poster, and the English is alongside the Italian. That's book 1.
Right, that's the best thing.
The Specialist. And the second one, I don't know when, 100 More Must-See Movies.
Yep.
And it's got more posters, great cover work. And then volume 3, these are in mint condition, Tom, and it cost me last week's pension.
I bet.
The Wild and the Sadist and the Outsiders. So it's a 3-part collection with great analysis. And anyway, I wish I could stop the show and read it.
Volume 3 has an index for all 3 volumes, so you got to get the 3rd one.
Right. It's everything you need to know. It's not a novel, and it's not inside information, but it's basically with the posters and the captions and the bios, just indispensable. You might find them for $100 each. uh, on Amazon Italy, Amazon Germany. So I got mine way before the price went up. But no, those are the very tough to find. And my son, whenever he wants to hold it, I say, go wash your hands.
Yes.
So anyway, so from Book of the Week, we're going to jump right to another favorite, and that is Autograph of the Week. And since I'm right here, I'll just do that real quick. Here's John Saxon from the Appaloosa. Got this at the, there we go. Got this at the collector show from John himself. He was happy to see it. Everybody was talking to him about cannibal, Holocaust, or, the Freddy Krueger movie, or of course they want to talk about the Bruce Lee film, which name escapes me.
Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon. Yep.
And I just mentioned Appaloosa. I'm a fan of your spaghetti westerns. And he's like, oh, and he spoke about it, and a real nice man. And then, of course, he actually didn't charge me once I showed him that. So,
good.
Anyway, we all have similar stories. Okay, that's it for me. We'll save you for last, Court, because the guy who has Karloff, Lugosi, Cheney, and Carradine, and Peter Lorre. Okay, what do you got, Tom?
I didn't get the one I wanted to get, but this one's even better. This is from the Autry Sergio Leone exhibit, and it's an autograph of Claudia Cardinale.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. Yep.
Is that the one you got tattooed on your thigh?
Yeah, I wish.
Cool. Okay, Court. Who do we got spaghetti western wise?
Okay. Well, I brought two.
Okay.
One because you said Barcaro counts.
Yep.
So here is back when I was in college.
Warren.
There's Warren saying to Court, Sam and I thank you. Because I did a film project on Peckinpah while I was still a student at USC. And Warren Oates helped me out so much. God, what a nice man he was.
Nice.
So that. Now, this is not personalized, but I worked also through a friend of mine who was close to Bud Bedecker. We all ended up kind of working on a film that Bud was doing about the raising of Arabian fighting stallions. And we went down to his place in San Juan Capistrano, and Lucian Ballard was the consulting director of photography and everything. It was really something. And we're just a bunch of kids. Anyway, Bud, we talked a lot, and he took me around in his office and everything. And he showed me something on his wall that I was like, wow. I mean, he was reading it because it was a souvenir from an old friend of his. Years later, this piece was given to me as a gift by a friend who had no idea I had ever seen it before or knew it was in Bud Bedecker.
What is it, Court?
There it is. It's a letter from John Ford. Congratulating Bud on his documentary. There you go. Arusa, about Carlos Arusa, the bullfighter. And what I love about this is, Ford was not a fan of dictation. He didn't trust it. So he tended to write everything out, as you can see, the handwritten, with the stain from his coffee cup on there. And then there is the secretary's typed version that he signed.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
And Bud, of course, knew
so
about
it. He signed it twice?
He signed it twice. And Bud knew about that habit. And when he got the note, he called him up and said, Jack, I want the handwritten original. I don't know. I'm probably throw it away. And he found it and sent it to him. So he had both.
Awesome.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's going to be tough to top, but Tom will try with his album of the week pick, Tom.
Oh, my album of the week. Just Jay doesn't have the music. Another one that's not really rare, but it was at the time.
Oh, I love that one.
4 film suites by Jerry Fielding, and the reason I got it was, of course, one of the suites is Shadow's Land. And Shadow's Land was never released on an album at that time, so it contains Lawman, Mechanic, and Straw Dogs. Someplace here, just a second, I'll get you the information on it. It was made in 1967, USA, Label is Citadel number CT/JF-2/3. It's mono, of course. It has 6 tracks, but they're suites. The value on this thing is anywhere from $12 to $42. When I looked on eBay to see what they had any, they had 2. One was $50 and one was $80. So that's available. Shadow's Land has since come out on CD, but at that time, that's all that was available. So that's my album of the week.
You know what? This is Shadow's Land, punk.
Nope.
Okay, I always got to throw that in. Court, do you have an album close by?
Yes, actually, I do.
Okay.
And definitely not spaghetti Western, but
no carousel, Court. No carousel.
No carousel. Close, but here it is. Les
Master of the World.
Score
Nice.
for Master of the World with Charles Bronson, of course.
Yep.
And I listened to this one quite. I think it's a wonderful score. The score is in many ways better than the movie, but you know, it's just gorgeous. And for recent kind of collecting, there is the Disney 20,000 Leagues, but it's the 78s.
Mm.
And there are about 5 records in those sleeves.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And including Whale of a Tale.
Well, anything by Baxter is classic. He did a lot of those horror films for AIP, I think, as well, and a lot of Vincent Price movies.
Oh yes, all the Edgar Allan Poes and what have you.
Right.
But yeah, no, he was wonderful.
And now it's time for a segment that is a fan favorite with everybody. And Tom, is there any news?
That's why we closed the show, Court, because the vegetables and stuff start flying up at the screen here. So be careful.
Right, the posse is gathering. So it's time for Tom Betts's weekly
news. Finally, we have some news this week. There's a new German Blu-ray DVD release of Ringo mit den Golden Pistolen, which is Ringo and his Golden Pistol. 1966 film directed by our friend, as Courtney mentioned, Sergio Corbucci. We didn't talk about this one, Court. Also starring Mark Damon, Ettore Manni, Valeria Fabrizi, Franco De Rosa, and Giulia Rubini. It was released on White Pearl / Dorado Soul Food. It's a Region B in mono, German and Italian languages, and running time 90 minutes. It's a limited edition of 1,200 copies, and the extras are a 16-page booklet. It was released September 11th. Also, let me give a picture of that. What the cover looks like. Also, a new Italian book release, Se Viori Vivere Gira il Cinema di Sergio Gironi. If you want to live, turn. Sergio Gironi Cinema. Author is David Pulici. Published by Nocturno. It's in Italian. Contains 228 pages, and that was released on the 10th. And passing, Romanian actor Serban Celia died on August 20th, 2020, at the age of 68. Born on June 10th, 1952, he graduated from the College St. Sava in Bucharest and the Institute of Theater and Cinematographic Art in 1975. He started his career as an actor at the George Makovia Dramatic Theater in Bacău, 1975-76. For the most part, he appeared in horror and action films released directly to video, such as My Enemy's Enemy, Witch House 2, Blood Company, and Prince of Darkness, The True Story of Dracula. He also appeared in Steven Seagal's Attack Force and Jean-Claude Van Damme's Second in Command and Assassination Games. Serban appeared in 2 European westerns, Phantom Town, 1997 as a cowboy, and as the bartender in Aliens in the Wild Wild West in 1999. Both of those were filmed in Romania. And we have 3 birthdays this week. One we talked about, Dario Argento turned 80 on September 7th. Mario Adorf turned 80 on September 8th. And Ernest Gastaldi, director-screenwriter, turned 86 on September 10th. And that's the weekly news.
Ooh.
The
And
weekly
we have
news.
we have a birthday today.
Okay.
Herbert Lom.
Herbert Lom. Oh my God. How old would he have been? 100 something?
Wow.
He died in
I
his
think so,
90s.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
He was an idiot.
But Jay, what was he in? Spaghetti Western wise.
Herbert Lom.
Not what you consider a spaghetti Western.
Via Rides.
No. Yeah, he was in there. Yes, right.
He
That's
sure
not
was.
it. It's not what I'm thinking of, though.
What is it, Tom?
Treasure of Silver Lake, the Winnetou film, the first one. Yep.
I got to go get the Winnetou set. I know I'm missing out.
No Winnetou films. No White Fang movies. I'm in tough shape here, Court.
Little Rita.
Little Rita.
Anyway, so I was hoping when I met my wife, hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Please tell me your name isn't Rita. because my wife's short, so I'd have to go around my whole entire life. Little Rita.
No, her name was
Anyway,
Model. They call her Maddie for short.
Yeah. But anyway, so that covers most of the news. Now, Court, if you stick around, we usually say thanks to a lot of the people who support the show, and that always begins.
The list gets shorter each week, Court, because these people drop out. They don't want to support us anymore.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Chrysler, McDonald's, all dropped out. Anyway, the first and foremost is Sebastian Hasselbeck's Spaghetti Western database. Have you frequented this, Courtney?
Actually, I have.
Wow. Do you see the end, the tagline there? The website Tom Betts uses daily.
Oh my gosh, I never even noticed that before.
That's so cool. So anyway, anything you want to know, DVD, Blu-rays, releases, books, interviews, this podcast, A to Z in the Wikipedia of Spaghetti Westerns, I always say. And then, of course, there are the other Facebook groups that exist. Tom's Westerns all'Italiana, which is legendary. 800 Spaghetti Westerns in Spain. Once Upon a Time in Italia, Spaghetti Westerns, which is a private group. Spaghetti Western movie posters, which I enjoy. Spaghetti Western Il Meglio del Western all'Italiana. Of course, Spaghetti Westerns Unchained, Fanatiques de Westerns Spaghetti, of course, the Opera Violence, and our two friends, Hog Janone and Hideko Uno. And I always give a new shout out to, I guess, Spaghetti Westerns VHS tapes. Right, Tom?
right.
It's a new trading group on Facebook. And so they're also been very supportive. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Tom, anything new, anything for next week that we're going to give away, or are we just going to wait?
I'm going to ask Court a couple questions real quick.
Sure.
Here we go, Tom. Here we go.
What was the first Spaghetti Western you remember seeing?
I would say probably for a few dollars more.
On TV?
Yeah,
Video?
Sunday night movie. Yep.
Okay. And who are your favorite actors of the Spaghetti Western genre?
Well, I would, in no particular order, of course, I love Franco Nero. Let's see, I like Anthony Stephan.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Woods, of course, because I think he's terrific. But our old friend, Gia Maria Volante, he's just, I think he's tremendous.
Can you imagine anybody taking his place in Fistful of Dollars or for a few dollars more?
Never. Absolutely never.
I can see
but...
Foster Brooks.
Yeah, sure, Jay.
Yes.
Right.
And
Tom, who's your favorite female actress in Spaghetti Westerns?
Oh boy. There were an awful lot of beautiful.
Well, Tom, which one's yours again?
Nieves Navarro, also known as Susan Scott.
Right, and
she was the widow in the Big Gun Down.
What was her name? Tom, what's mine's the name? What's her name again?
I don't know. What was she in?
She's in The Texican.
Oh, Diana Loris.
That's my favorite.
Oh, well, Tom, you can help me. Who is? Oh, she's just stunning. The girl who plays the young gypsy who nurses Alex Cord back in A Minute to Pray, a Second to Die.
Machiavelli.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, she just knocks me out.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know, Court. I just thought we'd ask these questions, kind of like an episode of What's My Line?
She was also in Navajo Joe.
Yes, she was.
Right.
That's her. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Very cool.
And Hills Run Red and a bunch of others, yes. Nicoletta Machiavelli.
Nicoletta Machiavelli. Yes, that's her.
I told Henry Silva I loved him in Hills Run Red.
Yep.
Thank you very much. and then he walked away. No, actually, I knew Henry. I met him through his son, and he introduced me to his dad, and I was his big fan. A big Euro spy, giallo thriller, tons of those, with the names like, the Mafia Man, the Mafia Connection. They call me Mafia, all with Henry Silva. We should do a show on Henry Silva, Tom.
You know,
really.
When we went to go see Henry, because I met him multiple times, but his health, he prefers to stay close to home. So Steve and I went over to see Henry, and I'll never forget. We walked in and he greeted us and everything, but I was looking at, he has that beautiful photograph of everybody from Ocean's 11, and the first thing he said, "I was not Joey Bishop." And
Really?
I was kind of taking that. I don't think anybody's going to confuse you, but what he wanted to get across was he never was one of Frank's hangers-on. He had an entirely different relationship with Sinatra. He didn't have to play that, and that Sinatra respected him for it, which is why they did so many movies together. Yeah,
Sure. He's Henry Silva.
Awesome. Yep. I'm glad we got a shout out to Henry.
Oh, Henry.
So anyway, Court, I once again want to thank you on behalf of Tom and our fan base for loaning us your wisdom and your time and expounding on some of these great films, some that we've never mentioned because they weren't in the context of the show. But when you come in, you bring a nice, fresh perspective. What films did these journeyman directors and actors make, and how they went back and forth? Great topic, Court. Thanks for coming up with it.
Yep.
Well,
had a great time.
Thank you. Guys, this was just a ball. I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of it because I love the show anyway. And suddenly,
thanks.
oh my gosh, there I am in box number 2.
Just for tonight.
Yeah.
But Tom gets the Paul Lynde Square tonight. Who you kidding, Jay? So anyway, Paul Lynde reference on this show. Once again, that's, I'm going to put myself in the top square. There we go. Once again, I want to thank Courtney Joyner for joining us, and we wish you well, Court. And Tom Betts, one and only. What are you doing after the show, Tom?
Getting a pizza.
Homemade or is it DiGiorno, Tom?
It's the all meat supreme.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for joining us on Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns, the podcast. We're on every Friday, noon Pacific Standard, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard, 9 p.m. in the UK, and 8 p.m. in the UK. So I want to invite everybody to join us next Friday. We'll have another interesting topic.
Real quick, Court, we have 2 or 3 Japanese viewers that get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch this live.
Wow.
So we always say
konnichiwa. Amazing.
Right. So anyway, goodbye, everybody. Adios. And I guess we'll see you next bat time, same Spaghetti Western channel. Right, Tom?
Yep.
Okay.
Adios, amigos.
Adios, compañeros.